The global financial system, heavily influenced by the United States, has been a significant player in international economies for decades. While it has provided stability and growth for many Western nations, it often comes at a steep price for countries in the global South. This imbalance raises important questions about fairness and equity in a world where economic power is concentrated in a few hands. Looking back at the Bretton Woods Conference in 1944, a meeting that led to the creation of the International Monetary Fund (IMF) and the World Bank, with a sole mission to promote global economic cooperation and provide financial support, the agenda was excellently executed. However, over the years, these institutions have mostly served the interest of Western nations. The US dollar emerged as the world's primary reserve currency, giving the US significant leverage over global economic policies, often prioritizing its own agenda over the needs of developing nations. One big issue is the dominance of the US dollar. Many countries in the global South rely on the dollar for international trade and borrowing. This reliance creates a dependency that can be quite harmful. For instance, when the US changes its monetary policy or faces economic challenges, countries that depend on the dollar often suffer. For example, when the Federal Reserve raises interest rates, it can lead to capital flight from emerging markets, destabilizing the economies and increasing their debt. Many developing nations now find themselves trapped in a circle of debts, borrowing from Western financial institutions at high interest rates. The conditions tied to these loans often include austerity measures that worsen poverty and hinder social development. As a result, these countries struggle to repay their debts and invest in essential areas like education, healthcare, and infrastructure. Again, the issue of trade imbalance is something to discuss, as trade dynamics are often skewed, benefiting Western countries. They export high-value goods while importing low-value commodities from the global South. This trade imbalance keeps developing nations in a vulnerable position, reliant on exporting raw materials while missing out on the opportunity to build diverse economies. The obvious situation of stunted economic growth for affected countries cannot be overlooked, as these systematic inequalities have significantly stifled economic growth, especially in developing countries. Then again, without access to affordable capital and fair trade practices, these countries struggle to diversify the economies and invest in critical infrastructure. This, without a doubt, adds additional weight to the already existing problem. Indeed, the consequences of all these struggles extend beyond economies. They also create deep social inequalities. Austerity measures imposed by international lenders often lead to cutting essential services, disproportionately affecting the most vulnerable communities. This exacerbates existing inequalities and hampers efforts towards social justice. Another major setback from this US-dominated economy is the pressures affected countries face, leading to political instability. This is mainly because as citizens face rising poverty and unemployment, dissatisfaction with their government can grow, leading to social unrest. This instability, in turn, can deter foreign investment, trapping these nations in a circle of decline. The challenges have over the years become a huge burden for many countries globally, especially developing countries, who are already struggling to find the antidote to drastically curtail poverty. The introduction of Brics Pay is without a doubt a huge relief to many countries, as Brics Pay seeks to address reformed trade agreements to ensure equitable terms for developing countries. This would empower these countries to build a more sustainable economy. Now, while Brics with its emerging Brics Pay system is still devising more strategies to reverse the trend of US-dominated economic policy, it would be just fair for these two Western giants, the International Monetary Fund (IMF) and the World Bank, to, as a matter of urgency, institute debt relief policies for countries that have piled up debts they obviously are incapable of paying back. Implementing these debt relief initiatives for these countries could go a long way of providing them with a much-needed breathing room, allowing them to invest in essential services and infrastructure in their respective countries.